Xavier, thank you so much for being here with us today. Talk about the cost pressures facing automakers.
Well, I think there's different sources of that pressure. And the first one, very simply, is the price of cars are gotten very high. And now, lots of people can't even afford a new car. It's interesting to see that in a number of geographies, the average age of a car buyer is above 55 years old. That says a little bit on the affordability. And so we need to reduce the cost of the cars in general. But also now we're facing new competition, notably from the Chinese OEMs, who tend to be roughly 30% cheaper than our Western manufacturers, both in the US and in Europe. And if I take those 30%, I said that 15% is local factors and maybe I would call incentives or subsidies from the administration, but 15% is real cost difference, and we need to take it out to be competitive.
So, what can leaders do to close the gap on cost?
Quite a few things that, if I look, for instance, at the Chinese OEMs as a benchmark, that actually they started to do before us. One thing is R&D cost. They tend to be much faster in their development of a new car, and we know that time is money. So every time you reduce the time it takes to develop a car, we reduce the cost of the development and the R&D. So that's number one. But second, they've actually innovated in the way they build cars. They have bigger die casting, for instance. It's a big term, just to explain that instead of taking several pieces and putting them together, they're actually casting a bigger piece. And that in itself, reduces the cost of the car. Then I think, if I look at, some of the Western OEMs, they tend to dictate to the suppliers what they want. I think in a way, Chinese suppliers Chinese OEMs, trust their suppliers better, and they ask them to propose, innovation, new ways to build things, to optimize the cost. And in that way, I think they get in the end, cheaper purchases.
Thank you so much.